Ahoy, fellow adventurers, and welcome to the Isle of Aeternum, a place filled with immense riches, untold mysteries, and power beyond your wildest dreams. If you've just washed up on the shores of Aeternum, you're probably feeling a little bit lost, but luckily for you, the good folks at Amazon Games sponsored this video to guide you through some of the essential things you'll need to know about this mysterious island. For starters, I'll go over all of the trade skills you need to master if you're to survive and thrive on Aeternum, starting with the gathering skills. Next, we'll go over the refining skills, which will have you taking the resources you gain from gathering and turning them into materials needed for crafting. Then, we'll go over all of the crafting skills to see what you can do with all of your refined materials. And finally, we'll go over the economic state of Aeternum and introduce you to something called the Trading Post, which is a place where adventurers come to buy and sell things they've collected or crafted on Aeternum. But now, let's dive in and show you some of the trade skills you'll encounter throughout your journey. We'll start off with gathering. For gathering, you'll have 5 main skills you'll want to master: logging, mining, fishing, harvesting, and tracking and skinning. All of these skills can be leveled as you adventure around Aeternum, as long as you have the corresponding tool for the job. For logging, you'll need a logging axe. Mining requires a pickaxe, harvesting is done with a sickle, fishing requires a fishing pole and bait, and tracking and skinning requires a skinning knife. All of these tools you can either craft for yourself at your camp or at a workshop, or you can purchase them from other adventurers on the trading post. But now that you know what tools you'll need, let's go over each skill in a bit more detail. Starting off with the logging skill. With logging, you'll find yourself tracking down different kinds of trees and chopping them down to gain their valuable wood. You'll start off small, cutting down young trees, but eventually, the more you continue to improve your logging abilities, you'll graduate to bigger and more valuable trees, moving on to mature trees, then weirdwood trees, then ironwood, and eventually the big one, runewood trees. You can even use your logging skill to cut down cacti if you want to go explore the harsh deserts of Brimstone Sands. This is a great skill to practice when you need a break from all of the action, and it's a pretty good way to make some extra gold as well. Next up is the mining skill. It's very similar to logging, but instead of trees, you'll be looking for valuable metals to mine. There's a ton of valuable metals scattered around Aeternum for you to find, and as long as you're skilled enough to extract them, they're yours for the taking. You'll start off small, like with logging, mining for iron, but eventually, as you improve your skills, you'll eventually be able to mine very rare metals you come across, like mithril. Be warned though, other adventurers are on the hunt for these rare metals as well, so if you see one off in the distance, make sure you get to it before someone else does. Mining is a great skill to work on, because the ores you extract not only can be turned into very useful equipment, but can also fetch a nice profit on the trading post. After that, we have the harvesting skill. This is a lot like the previous 2 skills, except this time, you'll be looking for valuable plants to harvest. There's tons of valuable plants scattered across Aeternum, just waiting for you to harvest them. You'll start off with the lower tier plants, like hemp, but as you improve, you'll make your way up to the more exotic plants, like spin fiber. This is a very relaxing skill to do when you need a break from all the hustle and bustle on Aeternum. But always keep your eyes peeled when you're out harvesting, as you'll run into some pretty wild, magical plants while you're out there that can net you some nice profits, and you wouldn't want to miss them. After harvesting, you've got the tracking and skinning skill. This is a really great skill for you hunters out there that want to make some extra gold off the animals you hunt. You want to start off training this skill as soon as possible, because to begin with, you'll only be able to skin low-level prey, such as turkeys, rabbits, boars, and other small animals. But the more you do so, the better you will get at skinning, and eventually, you'll graduate onto the medium-sized prey, and then onto the larger-sized prey, which is where this skill gets really fun. By the time you master this skill, you'll be skinning all the deadly animals Aeternum has to offer, like bears, wolves, lions, mammoths, alligators, and much, much more, as long as you're able to take them down first. But this isn't just a skinning skill, it's tracking and skinning. So what is the tracking part of this skill? Basically, as you improve at this skill, you'll slowly become better at tracking the animals you want to skin, and they will start showing up on your radar. The better you are, the larger animal you could track, and this will aid you tremendously when you're hunting for a specific species of animal. Not only is this skill incredibly profitable, as you can sell the animal hides and meat to other players, but you can also convert the hides into armor as well, which will aid you in your survival on Aeternum. So make sure to get started with the tracking and skinning skill as soon as possible. You won't regret it. And finally, we have fishing, everyone's favorite skill. This skill is so popular that some people on Aeternum have given up adventuring on the island altogether and dedicated their entire lives to the skill, hopping from hotspot to hotspot in search of the next big catch. But what is fishing? It's a skill you can partake in within any body of water you find on Aeternum. All you need is a fishing pole and some bait. Bait can be found all over Aeternum, under rocks, in bushes, or if you're not into getting your hands dirty, you can always just purchase some on the trading post. Once you have your bait, you can bring it to fish. But if you truly want to master this skill, you'll have to keep a few things in mind when you cast out your rod. For starters, you want to keep an eye out on if it's daytime or nighttime, as that'll determine which bait you want to use. Also, you'll want to determine if the water you're fishing in is freshwater or saltwater, as that will also determine which bait will be the most effective. Luckily for you, each kind of bait will let you know where they are most effective and what kind of fish they're best used for. But now that you know how to be effective when you're fishing, there's just one more thing to go over, and that's hotspots. To be the most efficient when it comes to fishing and have the best odds at legendary fish, you'll want to be fishing within the highest tier hotspot you can fish within. As you're exploring Aeternum, you'll find hotspots scattered around that look like a bunch of fish jumping out of the water. Once you've found them once, they'll be marked down on your map forever, so you can easily come back to them. So whenever you are in the mood to go fishing, simply head to one of these hotspots, pick the appropriate bait, and fish until your heart is content. It's worth noting, these hotspots aren't unlimited though, and will run for a set period of time before going dormant for a bit, so you may have to go from hotspot to hotspot to find the perfect spot to fish. But the more you practice, the better you'll get at fishing, and the higher the tier hotspot you'll have access to, resulting in bigger and more legendary fish for you, which you can keep for yourself, or sell on to other players for massive profits. These are the main gathering skills you'll want to practice if you're to survive on Aeternum, so as you're adventuring, make sure to always keep practicing these skills on the side, as it'll do you a world of good in the long run. As you continue to grow and improve throughout your journey, you'll learn how to craft and equip better and more efficient tools for all of these skills that will help you out immensely. Not only will these improved tools increase your gathering speeds, but they'll also increase your odds at better results, so it's worth upgrading your tools as often as possible throughout your journey. And once you've mastered a skill, you can even craft yourself some gathering gear, which will not only increase your yields even further, but it'll also show everyone else you take your craft seriously. Now that you know how to gather, let's go over what to do with all of these resources you've gathered. That's where the refining skills come in. There's 5 different forms of refining you'll come across on Aeternum: smelting, woodworking, leatherworking, weaving, and stonecutting. To begin training each of these skills, you'll want to head over to their corresponding workstations, which can be found in all the major towns on Aeternum. For smelting, you want to go to a smelter. For woodworking, you'll need a woodshop. Leatherworking requires a tannery, weaving is done at a loom, and stonecutting is done at a stonecutting table. But now that we know what kinds of refining skills are out there, and where to train them, let's go a bit deeper into each one of them, so you can know what to expect. First up, there's smelting. This is associated with the mining skill, and basically takes all of your precious metals you've mined out on your adventures and melts them down into ingots, which can be used to craft things like armor, furniture, weapons, and much more. The better you get, the higher the tier ingots you're able to smelt, starting from iron ingots and going all the way to metal ingots. Next up is woodworking. This is associated with the logging skill, and basically we'll see you taking all of your logs you've gathered from trees that you've cut down and turn them into planks to be used for crafting things like weapons, furniture, and other valuable items. You'll start off with timber and eventually make your way up to ruined wood planks as you get better at woodworking. After that, we have leatherworking. This is associated with the tracking and skinning skill, and will have you tanning all of your hides you've gathered from the creatures you've hunted down and turning them into leather, which in turn can be used to craft things like armor, bags, and other items of value. You'll start off making coarse leather, but as you improve, you'll slowly make your way to dark leather. After leatherworking, we have weaving. This is connected to the harvesting skill, and will have you turning all of your precious plants you've harvested into different kinds of materials like linen, silk, and cloth. These items can be used to craft light armors, furniture, and other vital equipment you'll need for your adventures. You'll start with linen, but eventually you'll make your way to spinweave cloth. And finally, we have stonecutting. This is a bit more of a complex refining skill, as it's not simply linked to one skill, and is used to create a lot more than just refined materials. It's most linked to the mining skill, but it also has the need for Arcana, which is something I'll go over a bit more later. The most basic part of stonecutting will see you turning stones you've mined around Aeternum into bricks, which can be used for a variety of purposes. But there's a lot more to stonecutting than just that. You can use it to upgrade your heart runes, which are powerful abilities that can turn the tides of battle in an instant, or you can use it to create tuning orbs, which will allow you to face powerful bosses for great rewards. You can even use it to craft gems, which can be slotted into rune glass cases and then put into your weapons and armor, giving you amazing buffs. There's just so much you can use stonecutting for, so it's a really vital skill to get working on as soon as possible, and has a lot of gold making possibilities built into it. These are all the refining skills you'll encounter on Aeternum. It's vital you start working on these as soon as possible, because refining skills are the bridge between gathering materials and turning them into powerful items that'll aid you in your survival. Plus, refined items usually sell for a lot more gold than their raw versions, so you can stand to make a pretty penny from the skills as well. To really maximize your profits, once you've mastered a refining skill, you could even craft yourself some refining gear for that skill, increasing your yields when refining and increasing your gold return as well. This gear is a great investment and pays for itself in no time at all. But now that you know how to gather resources and refine them, let's look at what you can do with these refined resources. That's where the crafting skills come in. There are 7 crafting skills you'll come across on Aeternum: weaponsmithing, armoring, engineering, jewelcrafting, arcana, cooking, and furnishing. Much like the refining skills, all of these crafting skills can be trained in their corresponding stations in every major town on Aeternum. Weaponsmithing can be trained at a forge, armoring requires either a forge or an outfitting station, engineering is done at a workshop, jewelcrafting happens at an outfitting station, arcana requires an arcanary repository, cooking is done in the kitchen, and furnishing is done at a workshop. But now that we know what kinds of crafting skills you run into, and where to train them, let's go a bit deeper into each one of them, so you can know a bit more about them. First up is Weaponsmithing. This crafting skill is pretty self-explanatory, but to sum it up, you'll be using your refined ingots, planks, and hides to put together all kinds of weapons and shields for yourself, or to sell on the trading post. You can use certain rare items to craft the perfect pieces with the exact perks you want on it, or take the risk and roll random perks in hopes of making a really good piece for a fraction of the cost. Having the right weapon and shield can really take your game to the next level, or if you're already sorted with your weapons, you can sell them for a ton of gold on the market to the right person. Another very handy thing you can craft with weaponsmithing is a rune glass case. This is a unique item that you can put gems inside of, and then put it into your gear to get really nice little buffs, like added fire damage for example. These will really help improve your gear, or you can flip them on the trading post as a way to make some extra gold. You can also make honing stones with weaponsmithing, which are vital consumables for the more dangerous areas on Aeternum that will give you added weapon damage for a set period of time. Not only will these items come in handy on your journey, but they are in high demand, so they're a great way to earn some extra gold as well. Weaponsmithing is a tough skill to master, but once you do, it can be a very handy and profitable profession to know. Next up is armoring. Much like weaponsmithing, it's pretty much what it sounds like. You take the refined ingots, leather, and cloth you gathered and refined, and turn it into armor to keep you safe while out on your ventures. There are 3 kinds of armor you can craft: heavy, medium, and light armor. All 3 have their own pros and cons to wearing them, so each adventurer must choose which kind of armor they want to go with, based on which suits them best. The heavier armors can be crafted at the forge, and the lighter armors can be crafted at the outfitting station. Elite armor will not only be extremely vital in navigating the harsh conditions Aeternum has to offer, but it can also be sold for a ton of gold on the trading post. The armoring skill can also be used to craft bags, which will not only allow you to carry more when you're out adventuring, but they're also highly sought after, so they fetch a nice profit. Mastering armoring is a very expensive and difficult task, but if you manage to pull it off, you'll have a very reliable moneymaker for a long time to come. After armoring, we've got engineering, and this is for you ranged enthusiasts out there. Engineering is predominantly used for creating ranged weaponry, such as bows, muskets, and blunderbusses, as well as ammunition for said weapons. It's also used to craft tools for you to gather with, like pickaxes, skinning knives, logging axes, sickles, and fishing poles. Once you've mastered the art of engineering, you can sell high-end versions of these weapons and tools for tons of gold to those who don't know how to make them. Next up, we've got Jewelcrafting. This skill will see you turning ingots you refined into jewelry, before adding gems to the jewelry that you've cut via stonecutting, and forging a piece of equipment that you can either choose to use or sell on for a profit. There are 3 types of jewelry you can craft: amulets, rings, and earrings, all of which can hold some pretty powerful perks on them that can really benefit you throughout your travels. The better you get at this skill, the higher tier jewelry you could craft, and the stronger you will become in return, or the more gold you'll stand to make by selling said jewelry. After that, we've got Arcana, and this is for you magic users out there. Arcana is a very versatile skill to know. For starters, you can use the resources you've gathered and refined to make magical weapons, such as ice gauntlets, void gauntlets, flails, or fire staffs. We can also use this skill to craft all kinds of powerful potions, from regular health and mana potions to damage reduction potions. There's tons of crazy kinds of potions you can craft with the Arcana skill line. You can even upgrade wisps with this skill, which are essential for when you need to craft high tier gems. There's a lot you can do with this skill, and most of the things you can craft can often be sold on the trading post for a good amount of gold. So Arcana is a skill you should for sure get started as soon as possible. Next up is cooking. When you're out exploring the island of Aeternum, you'll come across countless kinds of fruits and vegetables for you to gather. Plus, if you're an avid skinner or fisher, you'll have a good stockpile of exotic meats and fish as well that you'll need something to do with. Sure, you can just sell it on the trading post, or you can get into cooking and not only get the extra experience and quality of life, but you'll stand to make even more gold as well in the process. You can turn your gathered ingredients into meals and rations, which in return will give you health recovery benefits for a set period of time, something that comes in handy when venturing into the more dangerous parts of Aeternum. You can also use them to make attribute and trade skill foods, which will give you significant buffs to attributes and trade skills of your choice, which is incredibly useful. As you travel across Aeternum, you'll constantly be finding new and improved cooking recipes for you to learn that'll just take your cooking game to another level and give you even more benefits. But cooking isn't just about making food for the people of Aeternum. You can also use the skill to make mount victuals to feed your mount with. This will increase your bond with your mount, increasing your riding skill and giving your mount added bonuses like increased speed. Or you can use the skill to make bait, to improve your fishing, or even dyes to take your fashion game to the next level. This skill has a ton of utility, and if you play the trading post right, you can stand to make a lot of gold off of the food and dyes you make as well. And finally, we have Furnishing. This is a skill for those of you home builders out there that want to make your place feel as homely as possible throughout your time on Aeternum. Essentially, with Furnishing, you'll be taking all the resources you've gathered from every gathering skill, and then you'll craft them into cool, unique pieces of furniture to decorate your house with. The sheer amount of possibilities with this skill are countless. The better you get at furnishing, and the more furniture schematics you come across throughout your journey, the cooler the pieces you can craft and display in your house. Whether you want a quaint little house in Windsward, or a more modern, luxurious house in Everfall, the choice is yours. This skill really gives you the chance to let your imagination run wild. But like most of the crafting skills you've come across on Aeternum, there's more to furnishing than just making furniture. You can also use this skill to craft unique musical instruments that you can play alone or with a group to not only raise the spirits of everyone around you, but also give you some musical buffs as well. Or, if music isn't your thing, you can make trophies with the skill to display in your house. These don't only look cool, but will give you vital buffs, like increased damage to certain kinds of creatures, or an increase in quality to items you craft. And for you gold nuts out there, you can stand to make a nice profit by creating and selling instruments, trophies, and rare pieces of furniture, so there's that added incentive as well. These are all of the crafting skills you'll encounter on Aeternum. These skills take a while to master, but when you finally manage to master them, you can stand to make a lot of gold from them, if you play your cards right. If you are to be a true master crafter though, you want to make sure to invest in some crafting gear and crafting trophies to truly make the top tier equipment. These can be handcrafted along your journey, or purchased on the trading post from a fellow crafter. They may be a rather large investment to begin with, but they'll pay for themselves in the long run. But now that we know how to gather, refine, and craft, let's quickly go over the trading post. Located in every major town on Aeternum, the trading post is the place adventurers come to whenever they want to sell anything they no longer need, or purchase something that they're looking for. If you're looking for anything in particular, head on over to the Buy tab and simply type in what you want in the search bar, or use the filters below to narrow down results. If there's no one selling what you're looking for, or they're asking for too much gold, you can simply place a buy order. Then, set how long you want the order to be up for, and just wait until the order is filled by another adventurer. Selling is very simple too. Just head to the Sell tab, click on the item you'd like to sell, and then choose how much you want to sell the item for. You can also see how much other people are selling that same item for as well, to help determine what's a fair price. Sometimes you'll see buy orders up for the item you want to sell already, and if the price is fair, you can sell it instantly, or you can put it up via sell orders for a price of your choice, which will take a little bit longer, but could net you some extra gold in the process. You can then use the My Orders tab to keep track of all your buy and sell orders, and even to check the ones that have been completed or expired. Be warned though, the trading post isn't free. You'll need to pay a small tax on every transaction you make, so be careful. But that covers everything. Hopefully you now feel more prepared for your journey across Aeternum. Once again, I'd like to thank Amazon Games for sponsoring this video, to help ready you for your adventure. But until next time, I'll see you in Aeternum.